Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the synthesis of yoga. We are on page 73 in the chapter Self-Consecration with our beloved Ranga.
Okay, so the paragraph that we have to read today starts with the words, the very aim and conception of an integral yoga. So, we will read the para first and then we'll come back to it. It's about a page, so we'll start. The very aim and conception of an integral yoga debar us from adopting this simple and strenuous high-pitched process. The hope of an integral transformation forbids us to take a shortcut or to make ourselves light for the race by throwing away our impedimenta. For we have set out to conquer all ourselves and the world for God. We are determined to give Him our becoming as well as our being, and not merely to bring the pure and naked spirit as a bare offering to a remote and secret divinity in a distant heaven, or abolish all we are in a holocaust to an immobile absolute. The divine that we adore is not only a remote extra-cosmic reality, but a half-veiled manifestation, present and near to us here in the universe. Life is the field of a divine manifestation, not yet complete. Here in life, on earth, in the body, ihaiva, as the Upanishads insist, we have to unveil the Godhead. Here we must make its transcendent greatness, light and sweetness real to our consciousness, here possess and, as far as may be, express it. Life then we must accept in our yoga in order utterly to transmute it. We are forbidden to shrink from the difficulties that this acceptance may add to our struggle. Our compensation is that even if the path is more rugged, the effort more complex and bafflingly arduous, yet after a certain point we gain an immense advantage. For once our minds are reasonably fixed in the central vision and our wills are on the whole converted to a single pursuit, life becomes our helper. Intent, vigilant, integrally conscious, we can take every detail of its forms and every incident of its movements as food for the sacrificial fire within us. Victorious in the struggle, we can compel Earth herself to be an aid towards our perfection and can enrich our realization with the booty torn from the powers that oppose us. Beautiful. So, let's see what he is saying. The very aim and conception of an integral yoga. Earlier he has told us that if you are Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, they take a shortcut. They are interested only either in knowledge or only in devotion and love for the divine, intimacy with the divine, or they want to change their nature, but the higher nature, the inner being, not the lower. So Srimad is saying, our integral yoga, the aim is to change everything, right from the top to the bottom. It's easy to go to the top, leaving your body, mind, life alone. It's an escape. But we don't want an escape. We want to get out of the prison, but turn that prison into a beautiful palace. That's what he's saying. Our body, mind, life is a prison. But no, we want to make that into a beautiful building, which is not a prison. So, in the prison, there are no windows, and the walls are grimy, and there is all dirt all over, and you are put into that room, and you have to escape from there. So, escape is not enough in the integral yoga. It's enough for the other yogis, because they want only the higher. But the lower also must be transformed. So that's what he is discussing here, and how it can be done, and how you can take advantage of your very difficulties. That's what he is explaining. The others are saying, too difficult. I reject and go up. I don't want to bother about this difficulty. The Swami is saying, take advantage of the difficulties. Turn those difficulties into opportunities. So that's what we are going to see, how we are going to do it. The very aim and conception of an integral yoga, okay, is again and again, debar us. Who is the us? The followers of the integral yoga. Not everybody. From adopting this simple and strenuous, high-pitched process. It's a strenuous process, but it's also high-pitched because you concentrate only on one thing. Our concentration is a much wider concentration. Therefore, it is more time-taking and more detailed and more difficult also in a certain sense. It may be more difficult, but the end is more satisfying than the other paths. Okay, so high-paced process. I go to the next sentence. The hope of an integral transformation forbids us to take a shortcut or to make ourselves light for the race by throwing away our impedimenta. Which are the impediments? Suddenly he has gone into a Latin form. Normally you would say impediments, but he's gone. You can't forget Greek and Latin. So,
what are those impediments? We all know them already. Mostly the vital, I think.
Pardon?
Mostly the vital.
Yes.
But also the body.
Oh, yes, the body is the biggest. The most, because it keeps you, it's the anchor that keeps you fixed to the ground, the rock bottom. That's the whole problem. So, and he's saying, he's using a very interesting one. He says, whatever extra luggage you have, okay, you may feel that it's very important to have this, it's important. Okay, I don't want anything. But I must have minimum, my clothes, my shoes, and my toothbrush. Mother uses that phrase for one of her things. She says that they went into a trip one day into the Alps. In one of her, then she says, let us take the minimum amount of things, a bit of food, and what else do we need? Then she says that even the toothbrush can be dispensed. You use your finger. So, this is what? All that is a impedimenta, throw away. This is the way chosen, the method chosen for the Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. The body, I don't need the body. The vital, I don't need the body. I don't need the mind. I am going elsewhere. I don't need. So I throw away all these things and go there. So, Swami is saying, it is forbidden to us to do that. The hope of an integral transformation. Transformation of body, transformation of vital, transformation of mind. Not only the inner being. The others are all concentrating on the inner being. And the consciousness goes there, becomes pure and joins, and either knowledge of the divine or devotion to the divine, or even the nature of the divine in the inner being, not the outer. The outer being is our body, mind, life. It remains exactly as it was.
But Sri Aurobindo is not critical of those paths.
No.
He's just talking about
For
the
going
integral
further.
yoga.
That's right.
Yeah.
He never criticizes the others. He says, and that's interesting also because each soul has got its own purpose. So some of the souls, they may not have this for their aim. They may not have an integral perfection for their aim. No, I'll be more than satisfied if I go there. That's exactly what the ascent to truth was. There are some who are going up to this point and then they stay put. Then others go a little more and stay put. Others go a little more, stay put. So they're saying, let's go to the summit. That ascent to truth which was there on the first, that's exactly what. So he's not objecting to the others, staying where they want to. If they're happy with that, fine. Okay, so the hope of an integral transformation forbids us to take a shortcut or to make ourselves light for the race by throwing away our impedimenta. We don't need to throw away the body-mind life. We want to transform them. How? We will see. For we have set out, again the we. Who are the we? The followers of the integral path only, not the others. Set out to conquer all ourselves and the world for God. We are not satisfied only with our transforming our inner being. We also want to transform our mind, our life, our body. But what about the world? Even the world we want to change. We want to change the conditions in the world. If I change only myself, then I am being like the ascetic. I am only solving an individual problem, but not the problem of the world. There is death, there is suffering, there is misery in the world, there is so much of falsehood. That continues to remain if you escape. So our aim is to even change the world. And how do you do that? Make the evolution go further, one more step. Swamdev is not saying that I am going to change all life entirely in one stroke. No. But let's do at least one stroke, let us go up. Let's go to the supermind. So stage by stage it will go on. So let's help the evolution take the next step. That's why we don't reject the world. Clear? So,
Clear.
for we have set out to conquer all ourselves. All ourselves is including the body-mind life. Then also the world. We want to have an effect in the world also, the environment. We are determined to give him our becoming as well as our being. So, the being is your spiritual consciousness. The becoming is your body-mind life. The becoming refers to movement. Something, when it is becoming, something is movement. But the being is static. So the static part is the upper. Level 2 if you want. Okay? So that we want to change our level 2 also, the inner being, and the must also become pure. But we want also the becoming to be pure.
I think Mother says to do is good, to be is better. No, to
know is good.
To know is good.
That's exactly what is being said here in different words. Okay? So, we are determined to give him our becoming as well as our being. So, the word becoming is very clear. It refers to the body-mind life. Because that is level 1 where there is movement. In this second level, the spiritual planes of consciousness, there is no movement. It is static. It's immutable and featureless. So becoming and being. And not merely to bring the pure and naked spirit as a bare offering to a remote and secret divinity in a distant heaven. We are determined to give him our becoming as well as our being, and not merely to bring the pure and naked spirit. Note that, the pure and naked spirit. At our level, our spirit is clothed by the body, by the vital and the mind. It is clothed. So you have to cast off these clothes and become the naked spirit. The spirit without the coverings. That's what it meant. Okay?
But he doesn't want us to do that as a bare offering.
Yeah, we want to change. Even the clothes should become better.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay? The pure and naked spirit as a bare offering to a remote and secret divinity in a distant heaven. Why bother about distant heavens? Why we want it to be done here? That's what he's saying. Okay? Or abolish all we are, body, mind, life, in a holocaust. It's a strong word he's using. A massive destruction. Okay? To an immobile absolute. We sacrifice the entire becoming to an absolute, very far away he is there, so we want to do that. But no, we want to bring that distant reality down into the physical and change the physical also. Okay? Abolish all we are in a holocaust to the immobile absolute. the divine that we adore is not only a remote extra-cosmic reality, but a half-veiled manifestation present and near to us here in the universe. The divine is here also. Don't judge by the surface. The surface, yes, there is suffering, there is misery, there is imperfection, there is perversity, falsehood, ignorance. But that's only the surface. He is there in the physical world also. Remove all these coverings of sufferings and all these things, and then you will see the divine is there. That's what he's saying.
He capitalizes manifestation.
Yeah, that's right. It's a half-veiled manifestation, because we have now come, in matter, the veil is almost full. But when life comes in, quarter-veiled. Then when mind comes in, it's the other way around, 3/4. When life comes up, it is 3/4. In matter, it is 100% veiled. When life comes up, little bit the consciousness is showing what it is capable of. So that's 3/4 if you want. Now when he's saying half, the mind. Then when you go to the next level, the spiritual level, maybe it is only 1/4. But the full manifestation will be only at the supramental level. That has to come down. Okay, so half-veiled manifestation, present and near to us here in the universe. Don't think that the physical world, the divine is not there. He is very much there. Life is the field of a divine manifestation, not yet complete. So we will help to make it complete. That's what he's saying. Here, in life, on earth, in the body. How insistent. So he's going step by step. Here, in life, on earth, in the body, ihaiva. You have a Sanskrit word, iha eva, here itself. Okay, that's what it means. As the Upanishads insist, we have to unveil the Godhead. You have to unveil the Godhead even in matter, even in life, and even in mind. Here, we must make its transcendent greatness, light and sweetness, real to our consciousness. Here, possess, and as far as may be, express it. So, there is first of all a change of nature, but also you must be able to express it, make it obvious. Okay, make it obvious to everybody that this transformation is possible. But that's more difficult. So he says, as far as may be, express that perfection. Life then we must accept in our yoga in order utterly to transmute it. The others are rejecting life, not accepting. But we will accept. Life then we must accept in our yoga in order utterly to transmute it. We are forbidden to shrink from the difficulties that this acceptance may add to our struggle. He is admitting that what I am saying is going to be very difficult, but that should not deter us. Our compensation is that even if the path is more rugged, the effort more complex and bafflingly arduous, yet after a certain point, we gain an immense advantage. So, what is that advantage? He is going to tell you. For once our minds are reasonably fixed in the central vision and our wills are on the whole converted to a single pursuit, life becomes our helper. How? He is going to explain. Intent, vigilant, integrally conscious, we can take every detail of its forms and every incident of its movements as food for the sacrificial fire within us. So that, what he's saying, we'll see. There can be several explanations of this. If you are going on a path and you are stopped by an obstruction, there are two things you can do. One, you bypass the difficulty and take a shortcut and go. Okay. But now you have not learnt how to deal with this obstruction. You have not learnt yet. But if you face the problem and say, not only for myself, but for others who are coming behind me, I will remove this obstruction, I will face it and remove it, now you are master of that problem. So you have gained. That's what he's saying. That's one way of looking at it. There's another interesting example that we can give to ourselves, how an obstruction or a difficulty can be turned into an advantage. Okay? So, if you are going on in an aeroplane and there is or even in cycling, when you're going, if there's a headwind, your speed becomes less. So what do the cyclists do? You've seen, if you see that French Tour de France, okay, it's very interesting. They have one person and the other will go behind him, so that the pressure on him is less and he preserves his energy. At the last minute he will overtake. So you will see also this is what the birds do. Okay? They go on changing. The birds fly, when they are migrating, is this. They're not going helter-skelter. It's always, you will see, it's in a V form. The first bird is taking the pressure off and he is diverting the wind this way. So the others are all in the place where the wind is not there. So it's very interesting to how you can turn your difficulty into an advantage. And because the first bird will be tired, they go on changing. It's fantastic. That's what they do. Now, we can take another example of the headwind. If your plane is taking off and there is a headwind, it will have to rev up its engine even more powerfully because it has to do that. But suppose instead of going like this, it goes like this. Then the headwind is coming, it will help it to go up easier. So it depends on how you treat this obstacle. You can use, that's what Swami is saying in a different way. He is saying that the difficulty that comes to you, take it and throw it into the fire of aspiration that you have built. So every difficulty that you get, it can be used as fuel for the fire of your aspiration. It's an interesting image he's giving you.
Yeah. Sacrificial fire.
Yeah. For once our minds are reasonably fixed in the central vision and our wills are on the whole converted to a single pursuit, life becomes our helper. How? Intent, vigilant, integrally conscious, we can take every detail of its forms and every incident of its movements as food for the sacrificial fire within us. So use that difficulty, call God to help you and take that. This is also what we can actually do also. Suppose you are suddenly attacked by a whiff of anger. Okay, suddenly it comes you. Take it and throw it into a fire that you build in your own imagination and think that the fire is going up. Okay? You do this 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, you will see that your anger is slowly becoming less. You can do that with your greed, you can do that with your imperfections, you can do that with your any defect in yourself. It requires courage. You catch hold of it and throw it in that fire which you are imagining. Mother is sitting there, sufficiently far, there is a fire which you have built and you are throwing everything into it. So he is saying that, I am giving a little more graphic description of the same. So if one does that, one can get rid of one's difficulties. You are offering the difficulty. I'll tell you another interesting thing. One day, in a Wednesday class, someone asked Mother, when we come to you, we are conscious of our wrong movements that we have done and we feel guilty about it. So, but when we come to you, all those things rush up and we feel guilty about it. So what to do? Why do these things come? Then Mother says, what better opportunity than to offer them to me? So that's exactly the same thing. And she will burn them off. You give it to them and they burn them off. So that's what he's saying. Difficulties can also become opportunities. That's what he's saying. Life becomes our helper, intent, vigilant, integrally conscious. We can take every detail of its forms and every incident of its movements as food for the sacrificial fire within us. Victorious in the struggle, we can compel earth herself to be an aid towards our perfection and can enrich our experience with the booty torn from the powers that oppose us. Another image. Very interesting. Because when there is a war and the victorious army plunders the other areas, okay, that the country with the enemy that is conquered, and you take everything as booty, you loot, okay. You go and take away everything. So, this is what you have to do. The enemy is putting up obstacles in front of you. You take that obstacle as a booty. It becomes booty is a word which becomes your property. So that which is a difficulty, you are making it a booty. Interesting. So he's putting in so many different ways. Okay. So Swaminatha is very fond of using images, because as he says, as you keep going climbing in consciousness higher and higher, language disappears, because language is very limited. It gets replaced by sight. So the truth is revealed to you through visions and images. So that's why in poetry, in Savitri, images all through. Here also in his prose also he is using images. Okay? Two images he has used here. Sacrificial fire and also the booty torn from the powers that oppose us. Conquer the powers that oppose us and steal their property and turn it into your advantage. There is another direction in which the ordinary practice of yoga arrives at a helpful but narrowing simplification which is denied to the sadhak of the integral aim. The practice of yoga brings us face to face with the extraordinary complexity of our own being, the stimulating but also embarrassing multiplicity of our personality, the rich, endless confusion of nature. To the ordinary man who lives upon his own waking self, ignorant of the self's depths and vastnesses behind the veil, his psychological existence is fairly simple. A small but clamorous company of desires, some imperative intellectual and aesthetic cravings, some tastes, a few ruling or prominent ideas amid a great current of unconnected or ill-connected and mostly trivial thoughts, a number of more or less imperative vital needs, alternations of physical health and disease, a scattered and inconsequent succession of joys and griefs, frequent minor disturbances and vicissitudes, and rarer strong searchings and upheavals of mind and body, and through it all, nature, partly with the aid of his thought and will, partly without or in spite of it, arranging these things in some rough practical fashion, some tolerable disorderly order. This is the material of his existence. The average human being, even now, is in his inward existence as crude and undeveloped as was the bygone primitive man in his outward life. But as soon as we go deep within ourselves, and yoga means a plunge into all the multiple profundities of the soul, we find ourselves subjectively, as man in his growth has found himself objectively, surrounded by a whole complex world which we have to know and to conquer. Again, as a very interesting para, and the development of his thought and the words. So, what's he saying? He's saying that normal man is aware only of his body-mind life, and that also he is not aware of the distinction between the mind and the vital. We can't distinguish whether it's a thought or an emotion. If you try to distinguish, sometimes you will see that you are confused. Was that a thought, or was it a desire? Or was that something, or was it an emotion? Where is this emotion coming from? It started with a thought, therefore you don't know. But they are very distinct features, three of them. body, life and mind. So he's saying that this problem is there, this confusion. So we'll read that, what he's saying. There is another direction in which the ordinary practice of yoga arrives at a helpful but narrowing simplification which is denied to the sadhaks of the integral aim. Okay? And what is that simplification? The practice of yoga brings us face to face with the extraordinary complexity of our being, the stimulating but also embarrassing multiplicity of our personality, the rich, endless confusion of nature. So, we normally think we are body, mind, life. That's what I am. But is that really it? No. One day we discussed, no? You are also, the subconscious is part of you, even the inconscient is part of you, the intraconscient is part of you, the superconscient is part of you, and even the circumconscient is part of you. This is what you are. But you have been crystallized. It's like you are the sea, but somehow or other you have become a grain of salt. The grain of salt. You are individualized. Or better still to think of it as a wave. You feel yourself to be the wave, but you are actually the sea. Your body is part of matter, universal matter. Your mind is part of universal mind plane of consciousness. Your vital is one small individual formation of the vast plane of power and prana, life. So, this is what you are. So, and this is very interesting because he's saying extraordinary complexity of a being. So, this is what we are, but there is also another thing. He is also saying, we'll see that later on. We'll mention that. To the ordinary man who lives upon his own waking surface. What is the waking surface? Awareness of body, mind, life. The normal waking consciousness. But there is a consciousness which is inside, there is a consciousness which is up. All this we are not conscious of at all. Okay? Ignorant of the self's depths and vastnesses behind the veil. So there is a depth and there is also a vastness behind the veil. His psychological existence is fairly simple. And what's he? This is a very graphic description of what you think you are. A small but clamorous company of desires. Note the word clamorous. Making a lot of noise. I want this, I want that. Just like a child who is going on shouting to his mother, give me this, give me that. That's what we are. Clamorous company. Some imperative intellectual and aesthetic cravings. There's some good things also in man. Okay. Some imperative, you feel. Okay. Intellectual and aesthetic cravings. The cravings can also be aesthetic. They can also be very gross, but they can also be aesthetic. Okay. Some tastes, a few ruling or prominent ideas amid a great current of unconnected or ill-connected and mostly trivial thoughts. Our thoughts are very, very simple. We are constantly thinking about the physical world. Oh, I have to go to dining room today and collect my food. Oh, I have to give my clothes for laundry. Trivial thoughts. Not important at all. I have to get myself a new pair of shoes. Very, very practical and very, very unimportant things. You're not thinking of your soul. You're not thinking of your progress. Okay, you're not thinking of removing your imperfections. So, great current of unconnected or ill-connected and mostly trivial thoughts. A number of more or less imperative vital needs. It's true. Food is a vital need. Sleep is a vital need. So, imperative vital needs. Alternations of physical health and disease. Sometimes you're well, sometimes you're not. Okay. Then, scattered and inconsequent succession of joys and griefs. Inconsequent, the word has nothing to do with consequence. It means unimportant. Inconsequent. Of no importance at all. Succession of joys and griefs. Frequent minor disturbances. Minor disturbances are frequent. Okay. And vicissitudes. The word vicissitudes also Srimad uses very often. The ups and downs of life. Sometimes you are happy, sometimes you are unhappy, sometimes you are successful, sometimes you are failing. The ups and downs of life. Okay. And rarer strong searchings and upheavals of mind or body. So, rarer strong searching, you have an ideal and you are looking for it. That's very rare. He's saying it's not common at all to have ideals. Upheavals of mind and body, or body. And through it all, nature, partly with the aid of his thought and will, partly without, or in spite of it, arranging these things in some rough, practical fashion, some tolerable, disorderly order. So, Swami is so fond of oxymorons. All the time in Savitri, he is using oxymorons. Here also. But if you think about it, it's really quite true. Our life is not at all organized properly. And yet somehow we blunder through. So, there is order. We do things at one particular time, I have my breakfast. At another particular time, I have my lunch. And some amount of order is there. But mostly it is disorder. So, disorderly order. This is the material of his existence. The average human being, even now, is in his inward existence as crude and undeveloped as was the bygone primitive man in his outward life. So, 10,000 years ago or 20,000 years ago, the savage was very, very disordered in his outward life. He didn't know what to do. There was no order at all. He didn't even know how to grow crops. He didn't know anything. Actually, agriculture is a big turning point in civilization. You know that now, because before that, there were only hunters and gatherers. But when agriculture came in, it's a huge change already. You are making sure that you are provided with food. So that was it. So, somebody is saying, as disordered his life was outwardly, now in modern times, his outward life is more organized. But the inward life is as bad as it was in the past. Okay, so outward. But as soon as you go deep within ourselves, and yoga means a plunge into the multiple profundities of the soul. Multiple profundities. It's not only one. There is the profundity of matter, there is the profundity of the prana, vital, there is the profundity of the mind. There are so many profundities. Each one is a whole world in itself. We find ourselves subjectively, as man in his growth has found himself objectively, surrounded by a whole complex world in which we have to know and to conquer. So, man has trying to understand the universe. Science is doing exactly that. So, when you do yoga, you try and do exactly that. What science is doing in the outward world, you try to do inwardly. That's what he's saying. Okay? The next paragraph that we have, he will tell you about he just hints at it, the multiple personality syndrome. You know that, na? All that we have been in the past is stored in our being. And normally, disorderly order. They are there, influencing you, but you manage to keep those in abeyance. But sometimes those personalities appear, and then you have this problem of multiple personality disorder. It was discovered in America in the 1950s. There is a very interesting movie about that.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. The Three
Faces of Eve.
Of Eve. That's a movie.
That's it.
They discovered that this person is behaving in a totally different manner in one situation and another situation. So there is multiple personality disorder. Now the YouTube is full of these cases. So if you go, you'll see. In fact, some are very interesting, and not two personalities, 3, 4, 5 personalities are all there. So so we'll go to the next one and see what he's saying. Okay. Note the words, what he said earlier. He is saying, extraordinary complexity of our own being. Okay. So that's exactly what we are, and somehow it manages. Okay. Then, I read the next para. The most disconcerting discovery is to find that every part of us, intellect, will, sense mind, nervous or desire self, the heart, the body, has each, as it were, its own complex individuality and natural formation independent of the rest. It neither agrees with itself, nor with the others, nor with the representative ego, which is a shadow cast by some central and centralizing self on our superficial ignorance. We find that we are composed not of one, but many personalities, and each has its own demands and differing nature. Our being is a roughly constituted chaos into which we have to introduce the principle of a divine order. Moreover, we find that inwardly too, no less than outwardly, we are not alone in the world. The sharp separateness of our ego was no more than a strong imposition and delusion. We do not exist in ourselves. We do not really live apart in an inner privacy or solitude. Our mind is a receiving, developing, and modifying machine into which there is being constantly passed from moment to moment, a ceaseless foreign flux, a streaming mass of disparate materials from above, from below, from outside. Much more than half our thoughts and feelings are not our own, in the sense that they take form out of ourselves. They take form out of ourselves. Of hardly anything can it be said that it is truly original to our nature. A large part comes to us from others or from the environment, whether as raw material or as manufactured imports. But still more largely, they come from universal nature here or from other worlds and planes, and their beings and powers and influences. For we are overtopped and environed by other planes of consciousness, mind planes, life planes, subtle matter planes, from which our life and action here are fed or fed upon, pressed, dominated, made use of for the manifestation of their forms and forces. The difficulty of our separate salvation is immensely increased by this complexity and manifold openness and subjection to the in-streaming energies of the universe. Of all this, we have to take account, to deal with it, to know what is the secret stuff of our nature and its constituent and resultant motions, and to create in it all a divine center and a true harmony and luminous order. It's a big paragraph, so I'll do one thing. I'll read out the summary of what he's saying, and then next time maybe we can do it, because he has spoken about that multiple personality also, so we'll do that. So I'll read out the summary of what he's saying here. The summary is my own words, but it will give us an overall picture. Okay? All these parts of the being seem to have different characteristics, and even worse, they work independently of each other. Our life, there is a vital Purusha, there is a physical Purusha, there is a mental Purusha. These are all different aspects of them. The mind is logical, the vital is not. And the body is dense, it doesn't want to cooperate with any. So there is a constant quarrel between them all the time. Okay. The body is ruled by tamas. It has stability as a feature. It is loath to any change, progress. The vital, I'm interpreting mostly what he's saying. The vital is overeager for enjoyment, whatever its quality. It demands mastery, satisfaction, conquest. The mind is often a slave to the other two. It tries to understand, govern, organize what little of life it thinks it can control. Each contradicts the others and the ego, which is common to all the three. Each also contradicts itself internally and ties itself into knots of opposite principles and dualities. I am expanding a little on what Swamdeva said. Thus, this disorder has to be controlled, corrected, harmonized, and made effective for meaningful action so that fulfillment can be attained outwards as well as inwards. Man is constantly being invaded by individual as well as universal impersonal forces, physical forces, vital forces, mental forces, and spiritual forces. The mind receives thoughts from outside. These can be unformed, raw material, or they can be semi-formulated ideas and sometimes even mature, well-conceived thoughts. Our mind too exports its own thoughts, ideas, impulsions, releasing them into the general universal mental environment. The same phenomenon is repeated by the life in us, and even the body interacts with the external physical world. Thus, hardly can we claim anything to be our own idea, feeling, emotion, action. Even the subtler planes above the material send down their influences and impulsions, whether we perceive them or not. Therefore, individual salvation, liberation is rendered really difficult. All this has to be seen, acknowledged, dealt with, so that our being becomes harmonious, luminous, and capable of effective action. The others are saying, complexity, yes, I don't want it. But Swami is saying, if you want to transform it, you have to take account of this complexity. That's why it is so difficult.
One question. When he says that these things come from universal nature,
Yeah.
or from other worlds
Yes.
and planes,
Yes.
other worlds even.
Yes. He is giving a hint here.
Yes,
He's saying
he
it's not
is.
only here. It could mean two things. It could mean vital worlds, mental worlds, but it could also mean worlds outside our universe.
Exactly, yes.
So he has left it purposely there. He has not expanded on it.
Thank you.
Very interesting. And Mother has very often described how thoughts come into our mind. Okay? So we'll discuss this next time, how the vital also, feelings of others, okay, they can come into you and you'll feel that you're your own, but it's not your own. Body is very obvious. We are taking in food every day. So the universal matter is coming into you through food. Okay? Through air. You are breathing air. So there is a constant interaction at the physical level with the universe, at the vital level with the universe, at the mental level with the universe. But we are not aware of it. We stop here today.
Namaste. Om.